Hey everybody, welcome to Arrow on Target.
Yes.
We are covering the second episode of Arrow Season 2.
Identity.
Yes, Identity. And so I'm John, by the way, and you're Chris. You can follow us on Twitter at JohnWright777 and
Chris Wright 250. You can also find us online at StayOnTargetPodcast.com.
Yep, and every week during the episodes, I'll be kind of live tweeting some things, thoughts, that sort of thing.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, definitely. So if you want to follow that, if you're watching Arrow and watching along with us, you can actually tweet back. We can go back and forth, have witty banter, that sort of thing. Anyway, so this episode, yeah. So first off, what would you think about this episode?
Man, I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun. Like we kind of dove right into the action. Like before the first commercial break, we were kind of ramping things up, and it was getting exciting. And so I was pretty pleased with this episode.
I definitely think that the first episode of the season definitely set up a lot of really cool things for this episode. Basically, where we ended on the island. We basically picked up right where we left off last time.
On the island.
On the island, where there was this really cool part at the end, where it did that transition to the first island scene. Mm-hmm. And that was a really cool moment for me. So basically, we started off, and Roy, who's obviously your favorite person in the world, just Roy was being crazy.
Roy
was being kind of a moron, doing his whole speeding the Mustang, and running people off the road and stuff. And a FEMA truck. I was kind of baffled at the beginning about this FEMA truck.
Okay, this is I think my biggest problem with this episode, and this is where I will be negative here and then stop being negative for the rest of the episode. But if FEMA's sending trucks of medicine in, and every single freaking one of them is getting hijacked, every one of them. We're not talking like one got hijacked. We're talking like every truck got hijacked. All right.
I was thinking about this during the episode.
The army would be coming in,
right? How many would it take?
And stuff.
On the third one, I feel like they would be in there.
I would think they'd be in there on the second one.
And so that's probably true. That's probably true. You're probably right. But yeah. So that sort of was
armed
odd.
Escorts.
Yeah. At the very least, the police. The Starling City Police.
They just don't care. They're just like, oh man, catch the vigilante.
Yeah.
Forget all the stuff getting stolen
and the people being murdered.
Right.
That sort of thing.
Yeah. It's not even that they're just stealing stuff. They're killing people along the way.
Yeah, dude. Anyway, so yeah, you're right. That was kind of strange, but that was by far the most negative thing I have to say about the episode.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So the FEMA trucks kind of baffled me off the bat until we found out that the FEMA trucks were being stolen because we don't really know why. What the supplies were being stolen, but they were being stolen
by the Triad. They're selling them. Well, they were saying that they are opiates, is what they said they were. So it's just drugs. They're selling them as drugs on the street.
Yeah. See, I have a theory though.
What is your theory?
I have a theory, and the introduction of the character Alderman Sebastian. Was it Sebastian?
I don't know who you're talking about.
The new character we introduced this week.
Mm-hmm. The
let me
guy.
Pull it up real quick.
The guy that badmouthed Oliver to all the people outside the hospital and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Yep, Brother Blood, and so it's Sebastian Blood.
Sebastian Blood.
Yep,
not Sebastian. That's what I just said. Sebastian Blood.
Yes. And anyway, so we had him in the fray this week, and he was a really good villain. And right now, he kind of was a villain in the business world for Oliver, right? More so than for the Arrow.
Not even just the business world, just the community at large. At first, I thought he was a politician. What is he?
I literally think that's what I was thinking too. Was that he was kind of a politician style of things this time? That was what he was lobbying for things, and
right. But I want to know what he is.
I don't think he is anything yet.
He his character has to have some kind of job.
We don't know his background yet, though.
No, we don't.
On the show, anyway. I could give you
They weren't very clear.
Some tidbits in the comics and things like that where his character, but I don't really know a whole lot about his character in the comics. But we haven't introduced him in the show yet, really.
Right.
We don't have any backstory on him. He's just this pretty bad dude. Off the bat for Oliver, anyway. He's very much a character that is biting back at Oliver for almost no reason off the bat. whenever he sees Oliver at the hospital, he just kind of lashes out at him.
I think I told you, I feel like he's just pandering for attention. Like, I don't know that he has a real agenda. He says he has an agenda, but like his agenda seems very self-serving because it makes him be in the spotlight.
So here is my theory, and my theory is this may be very speculative, but my theory is that I would propose that he is in line, or he is, somehow aligned with the Triad, and that they're stealing these meds so that he can become this bigger, be elevated in the public eye because he can talk about it.
I can see that.
And he's essentially maybe rigged the game to where the community at large is going to see him as the only viable option for a leader.
I can see that. I mean, they've definitely rigged the system and set it up so that he's not only that kind of character, but he's at odds with Oliver Queen.
Right. And we don't know anything about him yet. Like we said, we don't know his backstory. We don't know anything about him. So he's very much, he's put himself in that way. And even at the point where they were at the charity event,
right,
he didn't let Oliver off the hook at all. I mean, Oliver was late. I mean, even if he was a couple hours late or whatever,
right. I mean, I don't know. He excusable, but like, with Oliver, it's understandable,
right? And he at the very least did the right thing and got everyone to the event,
right?
It wasn't not a success.
But that's what I'm saying. Is Sebastian is like he manufactures his own crisis. Like, oh man, Oliver's not here. Look at such a terrible person he is. Yeah. Like he purposely goes out of his way to vilify Oliver.
Right, and it also seems to me, It seems to me that he has more of he's more in the know than he lets on.
That's true.
It very much seems like he knew that something else was going to happen. I don't know. It just kind of like has these undertones of like this dude isn't just a sleazeball. He's a different kind of sleazeball.
Right.
So
well, I guess like I don't know if he's going to be a recurring character throughout the season, or what. But yeah. So how did you feel about the direction that Oliver took as a hero? We saw some more action this week, and we kind of he got more comfortable with Dig and he
got
Felicity.
more comfortable not killing anyone.
Right, but that's still causing him some problems.
Right. I think that overall, to me, I liked the balance of Arrow. I think that it very much had had the quality where it's like, hey, this is the same guy. Whereas last week it was like, man, is this going to be a complete change of character for him?
Right.
But is it going to be how's the action going to be? Is it going to be downplayed, that sort of thing, because he's not killing people?
Right.
But it's very much not. This was kind of the answer for me that I needed to get on board with the non-killing Oliver.
Right. And they did who's the character with the blades?
I don't know. It was a Wolverine-esque character.
Yeah,
we'll just say that.
So anyway, basically, he makes a comment to Oliver, or to Arrow, whatever his name is now. And what does she call him? She called him the Emerald Archer.
That's it.
And so, but he made a comment to him like, "Oh man, non-lethal shots, huh?
Yeah.
You're just not shooting me to kill." And
right.
So that's how.
Well, she also brought it up later on. She said, "You're different," and right,
because he would have killed her for sure.
Right.
And which, it's interesting seeing him get around these situations now. Things like, oh, here's arrows that turn into ropes around her wrists. I don't know. We can figure out better ways to do this. I did like the shock, shooting him and then shocking him. That was amazing.
That was a very, very epic moment.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments that was like, yeah, it's still him. He's back.
Yeah.
It's him. Because there have been those moments in season 1 where he'd hit an arrow and then it would explode later on.
So what about Dig becoming more of a sidekick?
Dig going out into the field with him. That was really interesting to me. I enjoyed that.
I did too.
I really did. I think
he needs a better costume.
Yeah, he for sure does. He needs a better costume than looking like
he looks like a bank robber.
Yeah, he looks like a bank robber or a mugger, something
Give
very,
me your purse, old
very
lady.
Street level. Like whenever he jumped on the scene, I was like, wait a second, who's this guy? Then he said something and I was like, oh, it's Dig.
Right.
He needs, so anyway.
He needs something else identifying besides.
Arrow had, the Green Arrow in the comics back in the day had Speedy. And I wonder if Dig is going to become his Speedy.
Who is Speedy?
It's his sidekick.
Was Speedy's fast?
It was like it was.
Is that who Troy or whatever his name
Speedy
is?
was the Robin to Batman.
But is that gonna be what's his face?
I've been wondering this because Speedy also wore kind of like a red outfit as well,
and he wears a lot of red.
That's
what it is. So or at least that's who they're like making seem like it is.
Right, and to be honest with you though. Every time they have made a character seem like he's going to become this other character, it's been a different person, you know? And so, I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out with Roy.
Wait a minute. Didn't they, in the first season, didn't they say that his sister's nickname was Speedy? Yes.
Pretty sure.
Tommy said that.
Yep.
That would be awesome. I told you today that I can't wait for the day whenever she figures out what's going on and starts going out and kicking butt with him.
You think that she's going to go out and kick butt?
I think eventually
she literally
will.
laid down an ultimatum for Roy this week, and you still think that she's going to be okay with Oliver doing the same thing?
Something will happen.
Oh, man.
Like, I think something... And this is why... Because, well, number one, this show's crazy, and they can change somebody's motivations. Like, she's already changed as a character and matured and developed.
Yeah.
And
well, that's the dynamic. The writers are very dynamic.
And
with
why
the
insert something like that if you're not going to follow through with it?
Because you're going to make it somebody else. I don't know. Anyway,
I think she'll eventually, maybe season 6. By season 6, she has joined Oliver.
I think somebody. I think on the down low, I think they had have like at least a 5-year plan for kind of the storylines and like a story arc, character arcs, that sort of thing.
So like the show's over in 5 years?
No, I think that's like whenever they sat down and kind of planned things out, they kind of have.
I'm going to shorten my time span and say by season 4.
By season 4, she's
joined
happening.
him. Yeah.
Okay. So there were some other things that happened. I love how the writers always throw different characters into, like, they like to play with the characters.
Yeah.
Where you had Sebastian, the new character, Sebastian's interaction with Oliver, and then later on in the episode you had Laurel and Sebastian there together at the party.
Yeah.
Whenever he decided to stab Oliver in the back, essentially.
Right.
So I mean, it was kind of one of those situations where I love the dialogue and the interplay where it's like, yeah, this is how these characters would be together.
Right.
And I love that the writers and the show creators, they do that all the time, and I enjoy those situations.
Yeah, it's cool to see like two different sides of the same character, you know, and it be an honest version of them. Like you talk about two different sides, and you think about Oliver and the Green Arrow, and so like, but those are very manufactured two sides of the same person.
Right.
It's like Bruce Wayne and Batman. It's not really like two sides. Like it's very manufactured. But like you see a different side of Laurel whenever she interacts with Oliver versus the Arrow versus Sebastian. So like that's very interesting. What did you think of the Indian?
The Indian. Oh man, I was wondering how in the world he's going to get out of this.
Yeah, me too.
I think I tweeted that as well. There was, you mentioned just now that there's a two-sided thing to the characters. This episode was kind of all about the two sides.
That's true.
There was a yin and a yang. In fact, it had the whole
identity, and so it's kind of like, who are you as a person?
Right.
Who are these characters? I guess.
Right. And there was the moment where Oliver, was looking at the people, was driving away from the first incident where, Sebastian whipped everyone into a frenzy and somebody, knocked out the window of his limo.
The hospital, yeah.
Yeah, at the hospital. And he flashed back to the island and he was washing, he was all bloody. Yeah, his hands were bloody. And so this, to me, it symbolized, he had blood on his hands, and then in the real world, figuratively, as well as on the island in that instance, literally. And then later on, whenever he was watching the television and they talked about it, he was washing his hands whenever he flashed back. And so it kind of very much had this element of, cleansing his spirit, cleansing him from the dirtiness that happened.
Right.
So.
It is very much, like an episode where he's still trying to figure out who he is now. Like after he's back, who is he as a person? He wants to be a hero. That's why he had that whole speech from the Triad lady. Whatever her name is.
I can't remember her name right now.
Anyway, at the end, she said that, they'll never see you as a hero. You'll always be the villain. Yep. Even if you do good, they'll always make you the villain. And
that was one of my favorite lines, was the line that whenever he returned back and he said, as long as the city is safe, it doesn't matter.
Right.
That was a big high for me. I immediately was like, man, this is epic.
Which I think is true. But only to some extent, because you already saw earlier in the episode whenever he's really frustrated that the police are trying to catch him rather than fighting the crime in the city, and that got him into the pickle at the end. Laurel, man, she has like a vendetta out against him.
Dude, and I mentioned to you before, I love the way that her and her father have essentially, you know, we didn't see any of him this episode.
Right.
But on the last episode, it seemed like they had just swapped places. It seemed like their roles were reversed, where he's like now okay sort of with the vigilante, whereas she's like all about, let's put him behind bars.
Right.
We need to catch this guy. He's not a hero. But to a certain extent, I was kind of disappointed whenever Laurel kind of revealed why she's made the change of heart. I was kind of like very disappointed that it was because of bitterness and revenge for Tommy, for one guy,
right?
Rather than, which was just because he was his friend, rather than the fact that I could see her getting upset at him for the fact that he abandoned a bunch of people in this area just to go off and fight somebody. I could see that, but like she just boiled it down to one guy.
I mean, I understand that though. Like, and this series has always played on those kinds of motivations. You think about her sister, and that was a motivation for her father hating him.
Right.
That was a source of guilt for him. His dad dying, that was a motivation for the entire first season happening.
Yeah.
So like they like to like pick on, oh man, this is the singular moment whenever something changed for me, and this is why I act the way I do now.
And that is interesting to me because being a comic character, comics are all about kind of origin stories, and that it's showing the origins of certain emotions and certain character change.
Think about Batman, like his parents get shot, like that's the moment.
It's a very
Krypton is destroyed. That's the moment that Superman is. Set on the course that he is.
Yeah, and you're right. That's a very comic book kind of thing to do, and I love it. I like it. It does work. You're right. You convinced me. You changed my mind. That moment works. The other things that I wanted to mention, kind of wrapping up towards the end of the episode, we had these crazy moments. Everything's going crazy. Okay. First of all, we have the flashback scene to the island,
right,
where we don't know what the world is going on. It was nice that we saw the little stone. We saw the origin of where that came from.
Yeah, and that played in nicely. I liked how I liked that Thea had kept it, and she gave it to Roy.
Right, and then Roy handed it right back to her after we saw the origin of it. It was a very well placed. I mean, I won't call it an Easter egg, because it wasn't really an Easter egg, but it was a very well placed story moment.
All in all, though, like I would say, like last episode, the flashback sequence carried a lot more weight. Maybe just because there wasn't that much action in the main story. But like this time, there wasn't really any action. They found the place that they were looking for. We don't know what it is. Like there's some weird skeletons.
Yeah, we don't know why people were looking for it. It was World War II Japanese people were in there.
Right.
And it looked like they had some like deformities on their skulls and things. So you wonder if there was some radiation
or something
going on there.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Like it's a very cool mystery. And I'm okay actually with the main story carrying a lot of action and the island story being more mystery based. I like that.
I like it.
There's not as much mystery in the main storyline this season, because you don't have a book anymore telling them what to do. Like there's.
I think the mystery comes from other ways, like the political and business mysteries of Sebastian and of his co-owner, CEO, that sort of thing. Him being the CEO of Queen Consolidated. There's a lot of mystery going on there, like corporate espionage type situation potentially. I mean, so I think that we're going to get that everywhere. I think it was a well-balanced episode because we didn't have a whole lot of action on the island, but we had a lot of action in the world, and it was a very well-balanced episode.
And I'm glad we had a lot of action in the real world. That's what makes this show good. Is,
for sure.
Him being Arrow, and I really like the characters. It's that's another strong point. But without the action, it's just another CW show. Right.
So okay, so also at the end with emotions and tears and anyways. So then at the end we also had the spot with Roy and Thea where. To me, is literally everyone in Thea's life going to lie to her? Like literally, that's what her character has like boiled down to.
She's overdue for something cool to happen.
Dude, like, I don't know, like, to me, it's like everyone is lying to her. She could very easily turn and become some sort of a crazy supervillain if everyone continues to lie to her.
Actually, that would be cool, too.
It'd be nuts, dude. Because think about it. Everyone in her life lied to her. Her mother, her father, her brother, and now her boyfriend. They're all lying to her.
I just want to see her go kick some butt and be awesome. That's what I want to do. I want to,
right on.
She has that power within her.
Yeah, she has that spirit. Yeah, well, she's Oliver's sister, so
it's true.
He couldn't have gotten all of the awesomeness.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Anyway, so we had that moment, and then obviously we had the moment where Oliver goes back to see Laurel, and immediately whenever this started happening, I knew something was going to bad. Like, this was not going to end well. It was either going to end with her like yelling at him and hitting him and finding out who he is or something, or the way it did.
I didn't necessarily think that. Yeah, like I thought like it wasn't going to go well for him. Like, she's obviously not changed her mind. I thought that I didn't know what was going to happen would happen.
It's a trap.
Yeah. I decided I forgot who I was talking to. I think Jared. And I think that anytime, or was it you? Anytime that there's any kind of crazy thing about to happen on television, Admiral Akbar should just come up on the side and just like, it's a trap, and then go back down.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
Okay, so the trap moment. I don't know how he gets out of this.
I don't either.
This is going to be interesting.
The only thing I could think of is like maybe Felicity or Dig know he's there, and they create a distraction for him to get out of there.
Let's hope. And so speaking of Felicity and Dig, there was the moment there was a great emotional beats with both of them. Because there was the whole kind of story where Dig broke up with his girlfriend and that. And so I think we're just kind of reintroducing something we're going to visit later on with Deadshot. And so that was kind of an interesting thing. But later on,
I could see that coming back as like a mid-season finale.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Deadshot.
I was thinking that something later on in the season is gonna have to happen where Dig kind of resolves some of these issues, but or it gets worse for him. Who knows? But essentially, like, they had this really core bonding moment where he was like, "Man, I should have been there for you,"
right.
And that really worked for me as a viewer. And then right after that, we had a really hinted moment with Felicity where she brought him a cup of coffee.
Right. Yeah.
And so these moments really solidified me in going, these guys are a team. They're a family. Regardless of if they argue, they still, they're still totally
right.
Cool.
And even Dig, like, Oliver was kind of like, not really thinking about him, but Dig wasn't even like first season he did a lot of crying. He was like, oh man, and so like he was just kind of taking it just like in stride. It wasn't like he didn't take it personally, which I like. Felicity's still taking things a little too personally for my tastes, but like. She got better by the end of the episode, so I think, yeah, you're right. It was a nice bonding moment. It's nice to see like them work as a team, and I look forward to that team element moving forward. Like Dig going out with them even more on missions, and maybe even Felicity in some capacity. Like running it from the computer back in the lair.
Well, you saw one of those shots. I loved there was a great camera shot where they were like, why did we get this footage from last year?
Right.
And then the camera kind of zooms out from her and she's like, yeah. And that was an epic moment, I think, for her
sure.
character.
Yeah.
All right. So wrapping up, some of my favorite lines from the episode, whenever obviously whenever she said they'll never see you as more than a criminal. And he turns around and says, as long as the city is safe, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of my all-time favorite line of this episode was kind of that moment where it kind of clicked in his head where he was like, I'm going to stop whining about everybody thinking I'm a villain and I'm just going to do my job.
Right.
And then there were some other really funny ones, where it was Felicity says, I love spending the night with you, meaning like, anyway.
Crime fighting, but it sounds like she's sleeping.
Right. She has one of these awkward things she always says. And then Diggs one where he says, my secret identity is as his black driver. That was just an amazing moment, I think, as a character. He just kind of like jabs at himself, and it made me like Dig a lot more.
And it was fun that they brought it back at the end. He says, I forgot what he said. Just referred to him as my black driver.
Yeah,
again.
Exactly.
And he knows he's more than that.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a cool relationship.
Right. All right. So what do you expect from next episode?
Honestly, I hate to say it, but I think within the first 2 minutes he'll get out of the predicament that he's in.
You hate to say that? I would rather him get out of that soon.
Okay, I want him to get out of it soon, but I would like it to be less, because then what happens is, as we move forward, anytime there's a cliffhanger like that, you'll be like, he'll be fine.
That's true.
If they actually catch him for 30 minutes of the show and he's having to figure out a way out. But the thing is, they're not ready to reveal his identity to anyone. No. And the minute that Laurel sees him, even with that face paint, he's had, man. He's had.
Well, same with Tommy. Whenever Tommy saw him, immediately he knew who he was.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things that I think you're right. He's going to be out within the first, at least within the first commercial break. He's out.
Right.
I don't know how, and I'm interested to find out how.
I think we'll see a lot more of Roy, actually bringing him feedback, or at least the beginnings of that.
Okay.
Like whoever he ends up and dealing with next week, it'll probably be intel coming from Roy.
So do you think we're going to wrap up something with a Triad next week? We didn't see Black Canary this week at all. And I'm still making the call that that's her.
Does it not seem like we're going to see her next week?
It seemed like I think we might see her next week.
There was some news. There was some news today that what episode?
I think 4 was kind of what they were introducing.
But it looks like
isn't next week. But it looked like on the previews next week. So I don't know.
3.
Which would be 3, but I'm not sure yet. So we'll see. We'll see what we see next week. We'll see what we see. Yeah, we'll see what we see.
I like that.
And see how that shapes up. We do know the Flash is coming at some point, and I'm interested to see how they introduce powers. So that's kind of what I'm expecting from the next couple.
Maybe
episodes.
That's what they're kind of alluding to with the skeletons being deformed and things like that.
Radiation. These were some superhero Japanese World War II soldiers.
Yep. That got lost in that cave.
Interesting. Or were we looking... couldn't find our way out of this cave. You realize those vines, you just couldn't see past them, man. Just couldn't see past them. All right, guys. Well, that's everything for this episode, and we'll see you next time on Arrow on Target.